Good afternoon, everybody. It's so great to be here with you. Welcome to Gardens of Evie. This is a sub-channel of Peak Prosperity, and I'm here to just grab a cup of tea with you and join you for a little bit this afternoon. It's really great to be able to spend some time. So welcome from wherever you are. If you're in the United States, if you're in Massachusetts, where we are, or if you're somewhere on the other side of the world, I'm happy that you're here with me today, and I'm grateful that we get to spend this time together. Today, it is the last podcast we'll have before Thanksgiving Day, and I'm not entirely sure if we're going to have a program or programming on that day, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And out here, it is rainy and cold. It's one of those quintessential fall days that makes you really want to grab a cup of tea and just curl up around a fire and just do whatever you have to do while you're snuggly and warm. I love our winters here. I love them because I need that slow down time. I need that introspection. I need a chance to just kind of let everything go and reflect on what the year has been like and what I'm excited about with the upcoming year and what I want to do differently in the garden. And I would have brought you out to see the garden, but with the rain here today, it's not conducive to having electronics outside. However, we have lots of exciting projects going on, and I can't wait to give you a tour. We've been expanding some of our infrastructure here on the farm, and we're going to be like right now, as I speak, we're getting a milking stall for some of our Irish jerseys built. And so we'll have a stanchion that we can, in a room where we can bring them and milk them, which I'm super excited about. We also have to figure out how to get them bred because if we want to have milk, we have to have babies. And that requires either getting a bull or getting some kind of having a way of doing artificial insemination, which is quite a thing when you have cattle that you don't handle all the time when they're mostly free ranging on their own. So this is going to be, there are a lot of exciting changes happening, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you and bringing you along for that. I'm seeing somebody saying that there's snow here, Candid Zulu saying, and somebody else is saying greetings from Seattle. So thank you all for joining me. I've been feeling just off today, so I'm just going to preface our little time together today with a check-in myself, and feel free to sort of check in with yourself as you're sitting here listening to this and just find out, how you're doing, how your day is going, how your week's been, and all of that. But I've been finding that I can tell when I'm overloaded because I just get a little bit antisocial and I don't necessarily feel like talking about it. And usually that's a sign that there's something that I really need to process or go inside and kind of work with in myself. And there's been a lot of that. And also I feel like I have to just acknowledge that for people that have lost anybody, that have gone through hard things, sometimes holidays can be a really potent and painful reminder of those losses. And so it's always a bit bittersweet to have gatherings and family things and getting together with um, pieces of my family, whatever's left of it, in terms of people that actually invite me to be in their lives still and respect me and appreciate the journey I'm on, and don't try to second guess that on my behalf, which I don't always appreciate. So um, it's been a bit of a journey in following COVID and following a lot of the things that happened as a result of the choices that Chris and I made around what happened there. Uh, we didn't end up with the same people in our camp that we started out with, and on some level, that culling, as it were, is a totally natural process in life. Like when I think back about it, I don't have a ton of friends from when I was in high school that I still talk to. I mean, you go through phases and stages in your life, right? So I'm finding that I am making peace with folks that have come and folks that have gone, and that I don't need to make it negative per se, but my heart does still ache about the way that I miss people. And when I plant the garden of my heart, there are people that I tended to that I thought would be living in that garden for the rest of my life, and that's just not the case. And when Chris and I got married this last fall, that was also kind of a big, I don't know, something that I had to process, to not have certain individuals there that I really missed and that I thought of and I wish well, but that we no longer sort of have a reality, that a shared reality that we can connect over. And it's so severe that I wouldn't have felt comfortable having those people at my wedding, which is, it's just sad. So we are living through some truly interesting times in this world. Um, Given all that's happening here in the US, leading up to Trump taking office, hopefully in January, and all the departments he's working on shifting and changing and reforming, all his appointments to those different positions. There's a lot of scrambling happening here in the States, and I think it's the last gasp of the prior regime, which always causes a little bit of anxiety for me, just because I know that the people that have decided the narrative on COVID and enforced speech to be managed by other entities other than the individual, that those people really don't want the freedom that I think we all desire and hope for and deserve. And so I'm concerned that we might be facing some tough times ahead. And this is precisely why Chris and I have decided to be out in the country. Number one, Chris Martinson and I, my husband. Number two, we chose a very specific place on purpose that has good access to water. We have animals that we love and tend to, chickens, cows, and often we'll have pigs as well. But our reason for doing that is twofold. One, I think it's great when you know where your food is coming from, when you know what it's been fed, you know what kind of life it's lived. That makes a big difference. And the other piece is that um, we also really appreciate the solitude and being in a quieter place. Neither of us are really built for the city in that regard. We need a lot of sort of uh, introverted downtime, and so this place is lovely for that. And it's great to have people come and visit us, and then also to be able to be alone sometimes. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm craving these days. Um, so I have sadness. I miss my kids. My eldest is grown. She's in college. My youngest lives with her dad. I don't get to see her all that much. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see her when COVID was happening because I chose not to get, the inoculation that everybody else did. And so her father withheld her from me for over 2 years. So there's just been a lot of pain that I feel like I'm in touch with today. And you can probably hear it in my voice or see it in my eyes if you're perceptive. But I also do have so much to be grateful for. And it it dawns on me in moments like this where I recollect where I came from, what my life was like a long time ago, even just 5 years ago, what my life was like and how much it's changed. I realize that I'm absolutely being watched over and blessed and given so much, and I don't really have anything to be sad about, even though sometimes I do feel it. Um, the larger story of my life is this beautiful arc of redemption and healing and finding my true path. And I still don't quite know what that is. And I ask God every day to guide me and share with me what it is His plan is for my life. And I really would love to figure that out. Um, and I'm in the process of exploring that because I just don't quite know what gifts I have and how to use them in the world. And and sometimes I feel shame that I don't know and that I should. And it's been a crazy journey where I've spent so much time, I think, trying to survive that I didn't put as much effort or energy into exploring what I might want to do with my life. And that was because I was just white knuckling through all the other days of trying to provide for my daughter and daughters in this case, and being a single mom and all that that entailed. And so I have this lovely opportunity now to develop myself a little bit more, and so I'm feeling gratitude for that. But one of the things I'm really most grateful for is having a partner that is truly there for me and whose heart is aligned with mine in a way where we both encourage and support one another in growing and exploring things, and it's real support. It's not just lip service. Um, he he doesn't have a design for who I should be or what I should become or do, and that actually gives me the space I need to grow because I have that contrarian nature, like so many of us. That's like, oh, you want me to do that? I'm absolutely not doing that thing, just because I don't like feeling controlled. I'm sure nobody does, and but we have this beautiful balance in our relationship, and it's taken a long time to get there. And I was recounting with a friend this a few days ago just about how that transformation went for us and what occurred. And it's really amazing to me that we're together, that we're here in this sort of blessed part of our lives together because we it didn't start out that way. I was very wounded and traumatized in relationships with people that really couldn't meet me emotionally or otherwise. And I myself was just so scrambled from dealing with constant trauma and loss, and the way your nervous system gets whipped up from nonstop stress can be really awful. Um and so I was suffering from that, and it was so hard to trust myself to make a good decision about a partner. Like, if you're in the middle of the worst chaos in your life, how could you possibly decide, what you want from that space? Because often we're choosing the polar opposite of what we're experiencing in the moment, which is how we stay balanced as people. But choosing a life partner, you really can't do that, in a sense, because you have to be able to be with that person through ups and downs. And I think anyway, I do believe that God, sent us to each other and gave us to each other as a way to continue healing. And Chris is a very masculine person who is very driven, who has a mission in the world to get the word out about the things he really believes in and the perspectives he has, and to commune with people in the community that we have online at Peak Prosperity. And we love all the people there. It's wonderful. Um, love seeing everybody too when we get a chance to be in person. And he's on because he's on his mission. I think I'm really attracted to him. I'm not sure I would be if he was kind of, I don't know, just half-assing it, not connected with himself or other people, not living his best life as a man. And if he made me his life, like if I was his only focus, I don't think that would work the same way. So anyway, it's a crazy world out there. There was a friend of mine who was talking about dating, and I just, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what it must be like for young people right now to try and meet somebody. Like, you don't happen to find somebody in college or wherever, whatever you're doing when you sort of come of age. It just must be extremely difficult to know where to look and how to sort of sort through people. I mean, I don't know how I would do it just based on my stance on certain things. Like, if people chose to get inoculated in this past COVID situation, I probably would not choose to be with said person, mostly because, not because it's a belief that, I wouldn't like them because they made that choice, but because I seem to be very sensitive to shedding. So people that are shedding the spike virus, or excuse me, the spike protein, really irritates my system. So, but I don't know. I hats off to anybody that's actually dealing with that. And I think what I've found, as I was discussing this with my friend who potentially is dating, was that there's a lot of assessment you need to be able to do about whether or not somebody's going to be up to the challenge of being your partner. And it's more than just, am I attracted to this person, or, did we have a nice date? It's much deeper than that. And I personally feel like it's a spiritual issue for me. If somebody's open-hearted and spiritually aligned, I feel like there's a whole world that opens up that is otherwise closed. But anyhow, let me look at the comments here for a second. There are a lot of people. Thank you for sharing your thoughts here. There are some folks that are also feeling sadness. I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm right there with you today. Dead Man Talking said, I'm stuck on benzos. Tell us how you got off. Please. I've tried Ashton Taper. I think most of my problem is I'm lonely. I'm so sorry to hear that. Absolutely. Dead Man Talking. It's amazing to me that they still prescribe these drugs. They're awful, awful drugs. A lot of people that end up having mental health challenges or having issues where in an intact society, in a normal village, we would just have sort of people and engagement with those other individuals, where I don't think the loneliness would creep in nearly as bad. And I think addiction, and what is his name? Gabor Mate actually talks a lot about this. Addiction, he believes, is a disconnect from our larger world, a loneliness inherently, that not feeling connected to those around us leads us to those addictive behaviors. And there's studies that bear this out, where mice were given like the option of having drugs or not. And the ones that chose the drugs were typically the ones that were in cages by themselves, and the ones that had like a whole community of buddies in there. Or I forget if it was mice or rats, but you can look it up. The ones that had good connection and whatnot were not drawn to those drugs. So it's fascinating. So Kat says, why can't I find a normal man? Good question. I hope it all turns around. It seems like a lot of more masculine men, whether it's because of environmental toxins or the hierarchy of mind virus that we have going on in our country here in the US, and a lot of our higher educational institutions, and where you find other young people, there's just such an emphasis on not being masculine. And I'm not saying that, the way that masculine always is healthy either. I think there's always a middle ground. And my definition of masculine is I want my man to be able to handle a situation, not get super stressed out, not take it out on me, be kind to animals and elderly people and children, and not be so meek that he can't put himself out there and do what needs to be done. And I think it seems like it's just harder and harder to find lately, sadly. But also, I really have been struggling, and this is part of my sadness that I think I need to process, is I'm really struggling with the dopamine issue that I feel like we're all going to have after all of these devices. I notice myself in the morning, when I first wake up, I used to just lay in bed and think and just let my mind be and kind of lay in that state of half sleep and wake. And now it's just so easy to pick up my phone, check the time, open up Twitter or my email or my text messages or something. And it's so hard not to do it. But we're changing the nature of our brains and how they function. And so it's not surprising, right, that there are so few people who are really embodied in that way that you might be wanting, and the way that we all really want another to be when we're in relationship with somebody, right? Like, it's not fun if you're going to have breakfast with somebody and they're on their phone and they're not paying any attention to you. Like, it's not really the same kind of interaction. And I feel like that kind of wholesome I'm present and grounded and here for you is really missing in our world. And furthermore, I feel like men have sort of drifted away from how to be men in the world, it seems, on some level. And part of it is our cushy lives. And those cushy lives sort of take the point of struggle out of the equation where it's like, why am I doing this? And people would rather sit in their parents' basement and play video games than get on with it. And I understand how that happens. I don't love that it happens, but I get how our young men end up there. And then women, like when we don't have a man that can hold that container of the masculine, then we're having to draw that masculine up through our own system. And I can speak to this as a single parent. It was really hard to be both the man and the woman in the scenario of raising my daughter. Her father was in the picture, but it was still, when I was with her, I had to sort of hold that more masculine place because it was just she and I. And so I feel like I could not do that all the time. I would end up resenting people. I would resent life in general if I couldn't be in my feminine, which is a flow state that's totally different than the sort of more regimented, this is what I'm doing as a man. Here's how I'm going to figure it out. Here's my strategy. Like, it's just different. And I think, I think that it takes a lot of, it takes a lot to recognize sort of where we are in this story and what's going on and how we're approaching the world and what we're expecting of it, and to try and cultivate in our own self what it is we desire in other people. And I'm just not, I'm not interested in trying to participate in a system where people are competing for these views for 15-second eyeballs on their piece. Like, what does that actually give anybody? It feels empty to me. And so I've been feeling like I kind of want to opt out of the whole system. I want to bring you news from our world and share with you about what we're doing here on our farm. And I'm not I'm not a poker player. I don't have a poker face. I'm not good at pretending that that something is what it isn't. And so I'm definitely struggling with how to be true to myself and how to participate in this larger world where if you don't get your stuff out there, nobody knows who you are, and that affects your life in a whole bunch of ways. Even Chris, like I remember we went to the Rescue the Republic gathering that was in DC not that long ago. Excuse me. And it was interesting because there were a whole bunch of different speakers there and whatnot, but ironically, so many of these people had never heard of Chris and his work. And a lot of it, in fact, was stuff that they talked about on their own channels or whatever. Like, we were so aligned in how we thought and yet so separate in some strange way. And I guess it's just the way the algorithms typically work. But anyway, so that's where I'm at today. And I'm feeling a lot of things. I think I'm going to go outside. We've got 250 acres here, and we've got a beautiful stream, and we have a mountain beside us. And as soon as the rain isn't coming down so hard, I think I'm going to go out and just take a nice long walk and just be with my thoughts. And sometimes it helps to write things down as well. So let me see what's going on here. Try being a 41-year-old male with 2 super special kids. I'm not ugly, but women run from me. That's got to be hard. Yep. I know blending families and trying to date when after you've already started to create a family is really hard. You end up attracting people that, I mean, it's so much more difficult when you have kids that you're screening a person for, because obviously you love them with all your heart and you want somebody who's going to come in and treat them how you would treat them. And the truth is that can be really intimidating for a lot of people And where do you put that in the whole first date scenario? Do you put it right up front? Do you wait? So somebody can get to know you without that sort of weighing in on things. It's hard. I think Chris and I ended up meeting because we have kids that were into similar things. And so we were drawn to a similar community, like-minded community, where kids were running around out in the woods learning, you know, essentially like wilderness survival skills and doing things that were very physical. And excuse me, that led us to be a bit more exposed to other like-minded people. And that would be my advice to anybody that's trying to date is whatever your passion is, whatever you love, and whatever you want to introduce your children to, go do that thing with them. And eventually you'll get to know the community that surrounds itself, that surrounds that thing that you enjoy. And over time, I think it's easier to sort of find your mate that way, because otherwise it's just a ridiculous sorting process that I personally would not enjoy at this point. So I don't know. I can read a couple more comments and then I have something else to share with you. Somebody said, why this sadness? Why not accept life as it is? Sure, I'm a man, have nobody to care for in life, but accept that's Jesus's way for me. I'm here to learn and does it every day. Okay. Absolutely. I love that. That's a great perspective. There really isn't. I think this is you're highlighting actually the difference between men and women in particular. So women have moods like the weather and we go through them, and it doesn't need to be fixed. It really just has to be felt, at least for me. I think I've identified that I just feel kind of down today and I need to go do something that'll lift my spirits a little bit, and that's okay. And what I really want to do is create. I'm very artistic, and so like, I am always knitting and embroidering, and I love making things. I just have so many projects on the back burner that I'd enjoy doing. I've been cooking a lot. I made a prime rib roast that was awesome yesterday. It came out so good. Like there are just things that I enjoy doing that help me to get through those places where I just don't feel as well resourced and happy. But also I'm in New England too. And one of the things that I have to remember to do at this time of year is to take extra vitamin D, because it's so easy to get deficient in that. When you get deficient in vitamin D, you can get that seasonal affective disorder where you're actually more depressed and you just don't have energy. You just feel gross. And that can be changed with, taking an extra 5,000, what is it? Anyhow, of IUs of vitamin D. I found that to be extremely helpful. So let me take this down from here. I forget how to do it. There we go. Somebody else said, I'm sensitive to shedding, but haven't mentioned it to folks I'm sensitive around. Just limited exposure. Have you talked to people or kept the reasons to yourself? I'm contemplating what's best here. That's such a good question. I don't avoid anybody that I know is vaccinated that might be shedding necessarily, but I know I'm going to be going out in public, or I know I'm going to be hanging out with somebody that I, for a fact, know that could potentially be shedding. I do a number of things. I have a whole treatment protocol in terms of what I take personally. And this is not medical advice. This is just what I do. There's an herb called baobab, Baobab, that I take that you put in water and you just sip on it through the day. That seems to help with my reaction, because the shedding, for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, if you're around somebody who is shedding the spike protein, often what it feels like is this constant rundown sense, like right before you get really sick, that feeling you have where you're just like, and you're kind of dragging. It's like a low level sickness, I feel. And if it goes on, it can even be a little bit more intense than that, but that's about the way of it. And so I take ivermectin. I take, if it's appropriate, I'll also take hydroxychloroquine. I make sure I'm taking my zinc and my quercetin, vitamin D, of course, vitamin C, and all of the sort of elements that I use, especially during the cold and flu season. And I'll sip on that baobab herb, and it really does seem to help because my daughter is actually one of the people that seems to be shedding that I'm reacting to, and I'm not gonna give up closeness with her. But it is hard to not feel good all the time, and I've noticed a big difference since I started doing that, so I hope that's helpful. And, oops, sorry. Somebody said, dead man talking said, "I was about to say, try going out for a walk, even if it is raining." That's great advice. Nature is the best healer of all. I'm really not sad, I don't think, but I mean, I have so many things that are just very personal and probably not appropriate to share on the internet, but I've just gone through a lot, and my mom isn't in my life anymore. Um, I still am in touch with my biological dad and his wife, but like both of my brothers, it's sad. It's sad to not have the people that you grew up around that know you, like in that deep soul level place, be there. And unfortunately, Chris has a similar sort of family situation. His dad's not no longer alive, and he and his mom is just they're not talking these days, and it's just empty. And so it's more the missing. It's not even so much that I miss my mom per se, as I miss the feeling of having a mom, like the placeholder itself, or the the relationship, the having an older woman who I can trust, who is just there for me and doesn't need anything from me, um, or something. So I'm sure I will figure out how to make it better. But for now, I'm gonna have to take my own advice, which is to just be with the feelings. I don't have to change them. There's nothing wrong or bad. These sadness feelings, they deserve just as much respect and love as happiness does, right? I mean, I'm not gonna push those aside because they're uncomfortable. And it takes a lot of courage for me to do that, but I know it's the way to wholeness. It's the way to heal. It's the way to get better at being sad so that I can be present with it and then it'll pass through my system more quickly. But I know there are a lot of people, especially at this time of year when you have folks in your house or not, or you're alone or not, you're figuring out, it makes you think when we come to a holiday, at least it makes me think about what I'm here for and what I should be doing and just the arc of my life. I look at it differently in some of these holidays and sort of mountaintop moments where there's an emphasis on family and togetherness, and it makes me think a lot. And I pray that I'll be moved to connect with the people I'm meant to. And the other thing is that I do believe that our family, we can choose our family to an extent. We can't choose our blood family. Excuse me, our biological family is what it is. But we can have a chosen family of people that we truly trust. Those would be your best friends, your, roommate from college, whoever it is that has been in your life a long time that you could call up with just about anything on your heart and they would listen. And as an adult now, I'm responsible for making sure I have the support I need. And so I do have people that I'm hugging to myself that I've decided and claimed to be sisters or aunties or friends or brothers, people that I know are really there for me and who care about me for who I really am, not, because I fit some sketch of who they think I should be. And I'm just really interested in people who love me for me, not some facade. And I know that family can be messy and that sometimes it's okay for people to disagree. And I'm not against that at all. I'm all about the dialogue. It just I I grew up with narcissistic parents, and it's just really hard. If you've gone through that, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a constant battle for the self and for having a sense of who you are that's separate from the desires of your parents' need to be seen and appreciated and all these things. And it's like you just are an accessory in a weird way to them, that it's not focused on who you are as a person and loving you for your own sake. It's something else. And it's just a level of what's the word I would use? It's just unhealthy. It's unhealed wounds. And I think narcissism is something that is very difficult to change because the nature of it is sort of a self-obsession that doesn't allow you to be reciprocal in your relationships. And so that's part of the reason I think my family is no longer um, or not in my life at this point. And who knows? Maybe things change. But I'm curious about who's going to be around your table this year, and who's not, and if people have passed on or they're just not in your life anymore. If there's an empty space there beside you at that table, or in your own heart for whatever reason. And I just want to I want to drink tea. I want to cheers to anybody that's in any of those situations. And because we're all human, we've all gone through tough things, and I know just how difficult it can be to be struggling with one of those big losses, especially at a time like this. But I hope that this next thing that I wanted to share with you might cheer you up at least a little bit. Oops. See if we can find it. Thought I pasted it. Oops. And maybe not. I'm not sure I can find it. All right. Nope. I thought I had it, but I don't. Sorry about that. At any rate, do take some time to just be with yourself, and wherever you are, it's okay. Whatever you're feeling at this point is totally fine. Whatever comes up for you at Thanksgiving or any other time is totally valid. There's a good reason that it does. And what I want to do is create a community. I want to be here with people and for people as they go through those hard things. And if you're curious or if it interests you, definitely come by Peak Prosperity. We have a website where people can speak freely about whatever's on their mind or in their hearts. And we have a lot of interesting people there talking about everything from what they're struggling with regarding COVID or recovery, or health related things, to homesteading and taking care of critters and growing your own food and preserving it, and all sorts of stuff. The sky's the limit, really. You can start topics anytime and in the forum and create discussions. So check that out if it calls to you. And I really do wish you all the blessings this Thanksgiving. I know that we all have things that we can be so grateful for: air that we breathe, the ground beneath our feet, just this beautiful life, a snapshot of life that is going to be over before we know it. And the aliveness, the consciousness that we carry in our bodies to do, I think, the will of the Creator. But you get to decide, right? We have free will, and it's a beautiful experience here on this earth. And I wish you all the best in your journey. And I look forward to talking with you again. If not next Thursday, then the following week. So blessings to everybody. Thank you so much for all your comments and whatnot. And appreciate all of your interactions. I will read them when this is finished. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you again soon. All right. Take care.